CBD is a hot topic in the health and wellness communities, but is it good for everyone in every condition? Stay tuned to find out if CBD is right for you. Welcome to The Healthy View. I'm Andrea Beeman, and I'm here with my fabulous co-hosts, Lisa Lutan and Michelle Leota. And today they're both stoned.
We're high on life, baby.
So thankfully, we have an expert here to help us get out of the weeds and get into the details to know about CBD and its positive and or negative effects on the body. Our expert today is Tammi Sweet. She is a passionate and energetic teacher with over 30 years of experience. Her amazement and wonder of the human body and how it works shines through as she presents material in ways that people can understand and utilize, which is always helpful. She loves integrating the wisdom of the body with all aspects of living. She co-directs an herbal program at Heartstone Herbal School and teaches anatomy and physiology and herbalism at schools and conferences throughout the country. Her deep understanding of the human body has come through many paths, including traditional masters in neurobiology and teaching college anatomy and physiology, and most importantly, from an ever-growing love of understanding who we are in relation with this wonderful home that we call Earth. And I personally have big love for Tammi Sweet. I met her when I was studying herbalism. She's a fantastic teacher, and her online anatomy and physiology class is a must for any wellness practitioner. I love her ability and the way that she helps people understand the body, and I even hired her to teach my thyroid program participants about the thyroid and its relationship to the entire endocrine system. Right? Because most people just focus on the one gland, but Tammi sees the whole body, and that's why I love her. So we are blessed to have Tammi here today to teach us and you about CBD and its effects on the body. And now that I'm done gushing over Tammi, I'm going to throw this to Michelle.
All right. We're thrilled to have you here, Tammi. Thanks for joining us.
Yay. I'm great. I'm happy to be here on this beautiful day.
Terrific. I know that everyone, all of our listeners, we've certainly noticed that the CBD craze has only gotten a little bit crazier and a little bit crazier over the past year or so.
Yeah.
A lot of people still don't even know what it is. So can we just start there? Can you explain what is CBD?
Sure. And part of what my mission is to kind of change some of the marketing and some of the vocab. So yep, everything's marketed. I was in the grocery store yesterday and saw on Time magazine, and I've seen it on AARP, all about CBD oil. And the first place we want to start is that CBD oil is a branding marketing thing. What we're actually working with is the cannabis plant that is high in CBD. And CBD is one of the constituents, one of the cannabinoids in the cannabis plant. And in the US and most countries where CBD, I'll always have like air quotes, but CBD is cannabis we'll try that again, just because of the sneeze. So in the US and all across the world, anything that is legal hemp, which is another marketing ploy, is basically cannabis with a THC percentage of below 0.3% THC in a plant. So all the CBD that we're working with is cannabis strains that are high in CBD and very, very low in THC, which is the euphoriant intoxicant, the weed from the 70s that we all know and love. So all the huge blow up of everybody and their grandmother selling CBD oil, they're selling a strain of cannabis that's just grown to be really low THC and really high, hopefully, CBD. Those are cannabinoids. Very long-winded answer, I know.
No, but I'm glad because it's really confusing. So I was thinking that too. There's CBD, cannabis, you hear hemp, obviously good old pot. Can you just explain again the hemp part? What is the hemp?
Sure. So if we're talking about it from a botanical or perspective, what we're talking about is cannabis, the plant. And then there are, depending on which botanist you talk to, there's either 2 species, subspecies, or 3. But basically, it's all cannabis. And then if it's high THC, then it could be cannabis indica or cannabis. Let me back up. We're not going to do that. So it's all cannabis, and hemp is cannabis that has a THC content below 0.3%. 0.3% will not get you high, and it's an arbitrary number, and it's just what they came up with. And we're hoping, growers and medicine makers are hoping to push that number up to 1%. So plants having at least 1%, below 1% would still be considered hemp, but we'll see what happens.
I see. Okay. All right. So most of us are hearing about it, like you said, in terms of CBD oil. So that must be an oil made with CBD from this particular plant. Yes?
Okay, great. Yep. So you would think that it would be that simple. And when I first started studying this, I was, as an herbalist, really confused. I was like, okay, they're selling this oil, but as an herbalist, an oil, like a calendula oil would be, I would take calendula flowers, I'd put them in a jar, and then I'd pour oil over it and maybe use a little bit of heat and then strain it, and then I would have calendula oil. That's not it. Then the other thing we should say here is that the cannabis market, the CBD market, is pretty unregulated right now, and there's not a lot of common vocab, so it's really confusing to the consumer when they try to go be smart about what they're buying. So the CBD oil that is out on the market, if you get a big business, like, this isn't your herbalist making oil. This is like, you go, and we won't name names, but there's even big herbal companies now that are selling CBD oil. Usually what's happening in that process is they're taking a lot of plant material, and they're either using ethanol, alcohol, and basically, let's just get really graphic. They're taking whole plants, the whole plant, and they're sending it through a wood chipper, basically, and then taking all that wood chipped material and adding and putting it in alcohol. Then they strain it and they filter it. And then what they do is they actually evaporate the alcohol. And this is ethanol extraction or CO2 extraction. It's just CO2 extraction is a little bit different, but both processes end up with this gooey resin that would be sticky. And then what they do is they then add MCT oil or olive oil to not have it be so sticky. Then they can dilute it and get it to the right percentage constituents or cannabinoids in there. And the way that you as an herbalist would make it is you would take just the flowers with all the little trichomes, and you would chop it up and then pour alcohol over it or olive oil and make a tincture. And you wouldn't evaporate the alcohol. And that's the difference. So yeah, I'll see if that made sense.
Yes, that makes sense.
It's really confusing.
It is. So that's exactly right. My experience with the CBD oil is that it's very thick and it tastes horrible. Yeah. And yeah, I wondered if there was another form that you can get it in. So you're suggesting that an herbalist would make it an entirely different way.
Yeah, an herbalist would start with better plant material. So that's the first thing is they, it commercially grown industrial hemp it's grown like corn. The field looks like corn, and they don't care because they're just going to chop up the stems, the leaves, the stalks, and the flowers. Whereas an herbalist is going to take just the flower because that's where the cannabinoids are in those little trichomes. And when you make the tincture as an herbalist, it doesn't taste good. Like, let's just be clear. Like, you're not, Michelle, you're not going to find a really tasty, it's not a beverage, tasty beverage. And when people, for example, when people tell me, oh, I like to juice the cannabis leaves, I'm always like, oh my God, that's so disgusting. It's so bitter. But but what I tell people when they're looking to go get a good product is that it should smell like weed and it should taste like weed. Because if it smells and tastes, it has the terpenes. And that's a really important part of the medicine. So if you get your gummy bears from the local 7-Eleven and they don't taste like cannabis, it's not as good quality.
So I'm a little bit confused about something. I thought the oils were for the skin and for pain, and that the capsules were for swallowing. Is that not right?
Great. Again, well, so I can tell that you might have some herbal tendencies, that you might go, oh, if I have an infused, if I have an infused oil, that's topical. You're absolutely right. But in like the herbalists weren't in charge of the whole CBD craze. And so, yeah, like when you buy the, you know, kind of the cream of the crop right now is the CW hemp brand, right? And theirs is infused in olive oil and they add a little peppermint flavor. I'm like, why? It's disgusting. Or chocolate flavor. But yeah, it's olive oil that you're supposed to take internally. And you could rub it on your skin, but ew, taking it internally. But that's what people are taking. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so go ahead, Andrea.
I was going to say, so I have a question. So is CBD, like the cannabis plant, is that a relative of the hops plant?
Yes.
Okay, so here's my question.
Yeah, they are in the same family.
Same family. So here's my question. My body loves beer. I mean, hops, me, beer, happiness, relaxation, giggle monster, the whole thing. But anytime that I do any type of cannabis, I have the opposite reaction. You know, like fidgety and I can't relax. You know, I get a little hyper and all that stuff. So are they that far away from each other? Or are they having different effects on the endocannabinoid system, or how does it work?
Yeah, great. So they're in the same family, but they have completely different constituents. So it doesn't mean that they have the same effect. And what I would say is that, like, the other thing that people don't understand is that cannabis, there are many varieties, and you could be an herbalist that your only herb is cannabis, and you could spend forever getting to know the different varieties. We call them, you know, in the layperson, these are strains, right? Sour, you know, if we go to the high THC strains, like sour diesel or pineapple train wreck or blueberry muffin. But I know, and I'm not in charge of these names. But what we're seeing now with people being really interested in CBD is now there are strains of high CBD that are getting these different bouquets, these different terpene profiles. So the hard thing is that, like Andrea, when you're saying, well, when I work with cannabis, I get zippy. I don't actually get relaxed. And what I would say is probably it's strain dependent, is that we could actually find strains, both high THC or high CBD, that have different terpenes. And for people that don't know, terpenes are the smelly molecules. If you're an aromatherapist, you know these, right? And they're going to determine, the way I like to describe it is cannabis is a whole plant, and it has all these constituents that are different instruments in an orchestra. And the terpenes are part of the section of the orchestra, and all of them playing together are going to make a certain song. So, for example, one of the strains that I grew this year is called the Queen of Hope, and 18% CBD, and because of the smell and the terpenes, it's a little zippy. Like, I wouldn't give that to somebody who wanted to go to sleep, or actually who is anxious, because it's too energizing. But right next to the Queen of Hope, I was growing this other strain called Lucy. And Lucy is, again, 18%-ish CBD, same THC, you know, below 0.3%, smells completely different, and is a little more sedating. And so that's kind of the fine tuning. Now, when you go to the marketplace and you're getting this mass produced, extracted the way I just described it, most of the time, if it doesn't smell like cannabis, the terpenes aren't there. So you're missing a whole section of your orchestra that is going to affect healing or your mood or your energy level.
That is really interesting because I've only ever heard CBD oil being touted as, helping with anxiety, helping with sleep. And in my private practice, I work a lot with chronically stressed women suffering with this sort of thing. So I'm very interested in how. So I guess what you're saying is some strains are not going to work for that at all. But for the ones that do,
no,
how does that work?
Sure. And we're just talking CBD, correct?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. So one of the without going into the 8 million hour lecture, but one of the things that CBD does is that it boosts our own endocannabinoid. And the one that it boosts is called anandamide, the bliss molecule. And it's AEA are its letters, arachidonyl ethanolamide, but I'm just showing off there. So we'll just call it AEA. And so that is our own THC. And so what happens is CBD comes in and boosts our own THC. And that is, especially if people are endocannabinoid deficient, CBD helps boost our own endocannabinoid. So it actually lifts mood. It now, the other thing, like the people always want to know, am I going to get high taking CBD? And the first thing is, well, you got to make sure that what the package says it is what it says it is, and that it doesn't have lots of THC. And if that's true, then the way I like to describe it is that when you, especially if you're deficient, your endocannabinoids are deficient, you when you ingest CBD, high CBD cannabis, your mood lifts. And it's that place, if you've ever been high or altered, you can feel it. You're like, whoa, we're about to lift off here. But what happens when you just take CBD, it just lifts you up a little bit, but then you don't launch off. Like that's the best way I've heard it described. So there, and with that, so I know you asked, well, how does it help with anxiety? Well, the main way that CBD helps with anxiety is it actually binds a serotonin receptor. So everything we know about the serotonin receptor, CBD actually comes in and binds the receptor. So that whole mechanism of anxiety and serotonin levels is helped by CBD. And I'm just going to say this one thing. We are on the cutting edge here. Is CBD acid, which is the precursor molecule to CBD, is 100, it binds the serotonin receptor 100 times more powerfully than CBD. So what you're going to start to see in the marketplace as medicine makers become more savvy is products that have CBD acid. And the beauty of it is that it's easier to make a tincture with CBD acid because you don't have to do the extra step of decarboxylating it. So if you get your fresh flowers or your dried flowers, all you have to do is chop them up and make a tincture, and you get a full CBD acid tincture. So if I'm really encouraging people that are doing anything they're doing where they're working with serotonin levels, so that would be OCD, depression, anxiety, even PTSD, and migraines, irritable bowel, and fibromyalgia, to try to incorporate more of the CBD acid into their protocol rather than CBD even.
Well, I'm sure there'll be a whole MLM selling CBD acid as soon as they hear this episode.
So
Exactly.
I'm curious, is it something that someone would take on a daily basis, like add a CBD supplement just every day?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. And, the other thing is that all the research that's been done by the scientific community has proven and shows, much to their chagrin, that full plant extracts are anywhere from 3 to 330 times more potent than isolate. So the whole plant extract that you would make, your tincture, is 3 to 330 times more potent than isolated CBD. And isolated CBD is made in that industrial way I just described, of just extracting and distilling it down. So going back to what I recommend for people that are making their own tincture or buying tincture from someone and working with CBD that way, as I say, start with a drop. Start with a drop, wait 2 hours, and see if you notice any change in, whatever the reason you were taking the CBD for. And then after 2 hours, if it doesn't feel different, then take 2 drops. And then once you figure out your dosage, it's only every 6 hours you're doing oral dosing.
Okay, and that's when you're using, sorry, I was gonna say that's when you're using a better quality product as opposed to some on the market where you're taking a whole dropper full.
Exactly. And if you were taking a whole dropper full, you would take it every 6 hours. Whatever your dose is, but exactly. And so I'm always like, start with a drop because you save money.
So I have a question about that. The CBD versus the CBD plus THC and all that stuff. So my husband suffers from anxiety and he would try those CBD oils. And of course, I'm an experimenter. I like to experiment. So when I would take the oil, I felt completely dried out and it didn't make me comfortable. But on certain occasions when I've been out with my herbalist friends and I actually smoke pot the way that I used to when I was a kid, I feel better. I feel better.
Yeah.
Is it because it's the both of them? And I don't feel like when I just take the CBD oil, every part of my body dries out. My eyes get dry, my mouth gets dry, and I can't sleep. I get fidgety, like I said. But when I have the, like pot in a regular smoked pot, I get nervous and fidgety, but I don't feel completely out of balance. Does that make sense?
Well, and I wonder, yes, it does. And one of the hard parts is that I don't know the drops that you're taking. You know what I mean? I don't know what quality, what they are, and what the dosage is, because we could figure out, usually it's about 2.5 milligrams per hit, if you're inhaling. And so, but you pointed out, Andrea, one of the contraindications or the things that we have to consider is that cannabis is drying. And cannabis is depleting, and CBD is cannabis. We back to what we started with. So folks that are working with CBD should also be working with herbs that might help make things a little more juicy, like marshmallow, to balance that. And I don't know, if you're smoking pot with your herb friends, it might be that you just didn't do enough. I wonder if you did it more, then it would dry you out as well.
Oh, and I could always smoke the pot and then have a bag of marshmallows. No, kidding.
By the way, I think it's weed now, not pot. Just saying.
Yeah, exactly.
Politically correct.
Just saying. But anyway, I have a question. So every time I go to New York, I see some new foofy drink like coffee with CBD infused, or, all these beverages are coming out like sparkling water with CBD. What's with them? And is there any potency at all?
Yeah. So, yes. Welcome to my pet peeve. So the thing that people should know is that cannabinoids, CBD, THC, are not water soluble. So when you're doing something like that, you would want some fat in it. So if you were doing the bulletproof coffee with some butter in it or ghee in it, and then they did a shot of CBD, sure. But the other thing is why would you want to do coffee with CBD? I don't get that.
It's a speedball.
And exactly. And then, the other thing, water with CBD, I would love to have it tested. So I would say, I just think it's marketing. And if you are getting your bubbly water of CBD and it doesn't taste like weed, it's probably isolate. And so we know it's anywhere from 3 to 330 times less potent. And it's, put a drop, you might as well just take your tincture bottle and put a drop in your water and call it good. Like it's just marketing. And the other, okay, and then let's go to this place. CBD is there's this other false statement that's being made that CBD is not psychoactive and THC is psychoactive, and that's incorrect. CBD is psychoactive in that it affects the mind. It boosts your own THC, it boosts serotonin, it's neuroprotected, it does a whole bunch of things. And I am concerned about too much of a good thing. I'll have it in my water. I'll have it in a brownie. I'll have it this is medicine. And we're seeing, we can't help ourselves as Americans. It's we're just going to now put it everywhere. We're going to commodify it. And we know what happens when we commodify master plants. And cannabis is a master plant, which is defined as a shamanic plant, a plant that has the ability to change consciousness. Now, just because we have the CBD version doesn't mean that this plant is still not a master plant. We've commodified tobacco, we've commodified poppy, and we've commodified coca leaf. We've commodified cacao. So it's just not healthy to treat the plant this way.
What an
I'll get off
amazing
my
insight.
soapbox
No, that's really helpful. I mean, I think we all know when we see chocolate milk CBD, that's just a whole bunch of horseshit. They just want to sell you a $12.99 bottle of something. But
exactly.
But let's say that we're going for the good stuff. We're getting it from professionals, giving us that one potent drop. Are there people that this is very well suited for, and people that maybe this is not the right thing for? And how do you know?
Great question.
Great. So, yeah. So with the CBD, there's very few people that it's actually not good for. For some people, it might be unnecessary. One of the places is with pregnancy and lactating moms, not because it's necessarily dangerous, but because the endocannabinoid system is responsible for laying down the neural network and for a lot of developmental processes. I encourage people to try to find a different herb during that time, just because why mess with something that may be affected by it? And, we know with pregnant moms, we're always conservative. So that's a place. I think that strain dependent, again, the Queen of Hope, I don't want to give that to an anxious person, and I don't want to give it to them if they are having trouble sleeping. So strain selection is important. And then I was looking at, because now that people know that I've written this book, they're sending me all these articles, and I read one that was in AARP, and I kind of chuckled. Okay, I was annoyed by the slant, the way they framed it. And the way it was framed, it was CBD interferes with pharmaceutical drugs. And the whole paragraph was about how it was dangerous. Whereas my perspective is, okay, CBD they've done studies where it is as effective as pharmaceutical antipsychotics. And without the adverse effects of the antipsychotics.
Wow.
So what that means, exactly, it's also anticonvulsant. It is the first pharmaceutical that's been approved is for seizures. So the way it could have been framed is if you are working with CBD and you are taking an antipsychotic or a chemotherapy medication or opiate or an anticonvulsant, please pay attention to your dose because you might actually take less. That's the beauty of it, is that CBD potentiates some of these meds, which we would be able to get people at a lower dose with less of this adverse effects.
So if
That
people
makes
are on
sense?
those kind
Yeah.
of meds and they want to
Yes.
start reducing those meds and move to more of a CBD solution, who would they even go see to help them with this?
Great. So there are more and more MDs that are getting savvy with cannabis, naturopaths. There are herbalists. Like, there are people. Just because you are an MD, or just because you're a naturopath, or just because you're an herbalist or an acupuncturist doesn't mean you know anything about cannabis. And there's a lot of misinformation. So one of the resources that I send people to is Dustin Sulak. He's got a website. It's called healer.com. And he's a DO, and he trains healthcare practitioners, but he has a huge free website. And so, if you have a willing primary care person who's willing to go and get trained, then they would be able to help you. And, it's not helpful when primary care people are saying it doesn't work, because that's been debunked. It's just not true. So I just tell people, go to healer.com, and there are resources there, and then you might be able to find practitioners that could help. And in New York State, to become a doctor, to be able to prescribe, it's a 4-hour course. A 4-hour course is not the experience we're looking for here, and that's true with CBD and THC. So yeah.
So the short answer is,
Yep. So I just keep funneling.
Call Tammi.
I know. Yeah, and this is so another person that I recommend is Dr. Jody Noe, who's a naturopath, who's been working with cannabis for 30 years. So if it's my health, I want to be working with someone who has experience with the plant.
How do you spell
and
that,
I'll
Jody
just,
Noe? I always have people asking me information like this.
I love Jody.
Yeah.
How do you spell Nodi?
Noe, Noe.
Okay. Jody Noe.
Good. She's good energy.
Yeah.
Cool.
And
Good.
also, right in this, and I'll give you one more person who's in the city who is a pediatric neurologist, and that's Maya Shatreat. She's a doctor,
we had
an
her
MD,
on the show.
an MD.
Yeah, she's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
Terrific. Well,
Yeah,
now we have
she's
some
my
good
buddy.
resources for all of our
Yeah.
listeners who want to get their hands on the good stuff and not buy it at the, gosh, they sell it at the pet store in my town.
Oh, I've
Yeah.
seen that. Pet CBD for dogs.
Betcha.
Yeah.
You betcha.
Mm-hmm.
Good. I'm glad we have resources for everyone. And for those who want to learn more about you, Tammi, and your work, where can our listeners go?
Great. The easiest way to get a hold of me is through my website, and it's heart-stone.com. And that lists, our 2 in-person programs. We have the apprenticeship, the herbal apprenticeship, and we also have Journey of the Heart, which is an apprenticeship of the soul. And if you want to cut this out later, you can. But the thing that I just launched yesterday, which is really exciting, is this year I grew about 200 hemp plants, high CBD cannabis plants, and I just put together what we're calling the package. And it's 4 hours of medicine making class, and basics about cannabis and the materia medica of that. And then in the pack, so you sign up for the online course, and then as a free gift, you get 4 ounces of my flowers, a mason jar to make your medicine, and a little vial to send, and a coupon to send your tincture off or oil off to get tested. And so I'm so excited. Like, we're packaging it today. That's what I was doing before I called. We talked on the phone today. I'm like, all right, we're making packages. So that it's just really exciting.
Can we come do it in person? I think it would be a fun like
Yeah,
girls'
yeah.
night out. You know?
Exactly.
That's amazing. No, let's definitely not cut that out. I'm glad you shared that. And just want to thank you so much for joining us today, Tammi.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was fun playing.
Thank you. Wow.
Thanks, Tammi.
Thanks, Tammi.
You all have a great day today.
You
Okay,
too.
take care. So, wow, how fascinating is this, you guys? I'm curious what your big takeaways were from today. Why don't you start, Andrea?
Well, my first is, remember how I was gushing over Tammi, how much I love her. I just love her. I love the way she explains things. I like the way she talked about the orchestra, and when you take out specific things, you're missing a whole piece of the orchestra. I think that like my main takeaway is that I'm so happy that we have practitioners in the world and teachers in the world that are bringing to light information about plants in a healthier way, information about medicine in a healthier way to the masses, as opposed to, like she said, what we do, especially in America, we commodify everything, right? Everything, put it into the distribution, big production, take the spirit out of it and just put this substance into the marketplace for monetary gain. So for me, I just feel blessed to have someone like Tammi on the planet doing this type of work, educating people, sharing her knowledge and her wisdom, and connecting people back to the plants in a healthier way. Because I feel personally that the plants are here for us and we're here for them. It's the Garden of Eden, right? We're the gardeners. So we have to get in there and get to know the plants on a deeper level in order to have them help us.
I love that.
That's so poetic.
Yeah, that's pretty beautiful.
All I was going to say is, oh, damn, that vial of CBD oil I got in my house is a bunch of junk, I guess.
Oh.
And my jars and jars as well.
Yeah, all my jars. I figured, you know, maybe this stuff just doesn't work as well as they say, because I haven't noticed it doing much. I thought, well, maybe it helps me sleep a little bit, but I could take it or leave it. But according to Tammi, that's because I'm taking something that's probably much less effective than the real thing. So now my curiosity is piqued.
Yeah, I took one once and I almost felt like I was having vertigo. It was really powerful. And then I got a little scared. But I think for me, some of the big takeaways, like I'm going to look at it more like a scale. Like I used to think, oh, there's CBD and there's THC and, you know, one or the other. But it seems like all these products are somewhere, you know, like different levels. And the fact that she kind of confirmed that CBD is a drug for your mind, where they keep pulling it out of that, like, oh, body aches, this, that. But being aware of that, I think that was really huge. I think also when she said about how it needs a fat, you can't just add it to a liquid, because I'm seeing so many products come out there, CBD infused, and I think that's really, really interesting. And what she said at the end about like for people on all sorts of different drugs and how, number one, they should be mindful that the CBD could be interacting, but number two, it could be replacing some of their drugs. And I'm like fascinated with that whole thing. So yeah, this was super interesting. I still have a million questions, but so cool.
We'll have to bring her back.
Yeah, yeah. And you listeners out there, if you have questions, like let us know, because we could bring her back if we need to. And we have lots of other great experts on the show. We would like to thank you for joining us today. We love hearing from you. We like to hear what you like and what you don't like and what kind of questions you have. And we also would love if you would help us spread the word. So visit us on iTunes and maybe leave a review while you're there. And also, if you want to sign up for our weekly email, just go to healthyviewshow.com and we will tell you what's up and coming. Thanks for joining us and have a great day.